everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day today. I hope you're having an amazing day today. I am so excited to be here. Hold on. So I have a little crisis. Hold on one second.
I love this. I love this, Jacqueline. This is perfect. So this is what a live presentation needs to look like every time.
Yes, this is definitely.
It's showing the truth of the situation, right? I love that your little girl just.
Yes. Okay. Crisis over. So let's redo. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today for Freedom Friday. If you've seen me interview before, I'm just going to talk a little bit because I was trying to explain this earlier. I want people to understand what this is supposed to be about. But the unconventional way is all about entrepreneurship. And it's about people who are really living their life out loud and jumping out of that comfort zone and working to achieve amazing things and really things that allow their families to have more time freedom and stuff like that. And I talked a little bit before about why I've created this thing, the unconventional way. And what I want you guys to know is, like, I'm partnered with a network marketing company, and sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma around network marketing, but that's kind of one of the reasons why I started this, because I think all entrepreneurs in some way, shape, or form get a lot of, they see a lot of resistance in what they're doing. And so I just thought it would be really cool to bring people on from all different walks of life, doing things that are so unconventional and living a life really out loud. And so you could see what it's like and that it's possible and that you can really achieve anything that you want to achieve, regardless of what everybody else says and believes. So I am so very excited to have an amazing friend of mine on with me today. He is, like, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing he is. He is such an awesome person, and I should have pulled this up earlier, but I got distracted. Okay. So he has been internationally recognized as a master trainer in personal development and business. He has interviewed on several radio interview shows. He's a popular guest for youth groups, schools, and businesses. His concepts and principles have helped thousands have more success at everything that they do. Jonathan is in the process of creating a movement of young people living extraordinary lives from the depth of their hearts and contributing to the world in the most meaningful and optimistic ways, which is unbelievable. The movement that he is creating and the work that he is doing is unbelievable. I've seen it firsthand. One of the companies that he was just featured in Forbes magazine as an entrepreneur magazine this month. And most importantly of all, he is married to the love of his life and is a happy, happy father to three beautiful children?
3 kids. Yes.
3 beautiful kids. So he has done all this and achieved all of this with 3 beautiful children, which is absolutely amazing. Jonathan, I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here and can't wait to see what comes out of this beautiful interview.
Yeah. So my first question for you is what really attracted you to entrepreneurship? I think sometimes, like, when you go through school, a lot of times you are presented with what's conventional. Like, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job. So how did what really attracted you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, you brought up school, and so let's bring it back just so you get my mindset a little bit. I was the unconventional kid at school. I had dyslexia when I was in school. And so everything that I saw, it just means, a lot of people hear the word dyslexia and they'll throw like a stigma on that too. And I went through some of that. I just saw things differently than other people. Even the way I read things was different. I couldn't focus on them. And I had to learn that there's more than one way to get from A to B. A lot of people will look, here's where I am, that's where I want to go. And the only way I can get there is like this, in a straight line. I saw 1,000 different ways to get to A to B. I could dance my way there. I could do cartwheels on my way there. I could do all these different things. And so I never took anything that, even in school, I thrived in school. I loved school. but I didn't ever necessarily do it the way they wanted me to do it. I did life the way I wanted to do life. And I started clear back in, I remember elementary school, and my teachers were just like, who are you? You're just this crazy kid. And it kind of stuck with me throughout all of my time, from elementary school all the way through the end of school. I would always live life and learn according to how I wanted to learn. And I wouldn't necessarily take everyone else's rules on life on how it's supposed to be as that's how it has to be, because I created my own rules in life. And so that shifted the way I thought. And it, by the time I was 18, I had, one of my superpowers is to attract the most beautiful mentors into my life that I've been surrounded with. When I was 18 years old, one of my mentors taught me the power of leverage. And he, we sat down and he said, if you worked every day for the rest of your life, Jonathan, how many hours could you work? And I didn't have an answer to it. He said, around 80,000 hours. I said, okay, that makes sense. He said, so would you be happy if I paid you $50 an hour? And at that time, I was making $6.25 at my job. I'm like, $50, $6. Yeah, I'd be really happy with that. He said, great. He pulled out a big calculator and he typed in the 80,000 hours times the $50 an hour. And he turned this big grandpa calculator around and aimed it at me. And I saw the number 4 million. And then he heard these words. He said, this is what you're worth. And I remember it just like hit me in the chest. And I immediately just like rejected that feeling, that thought. I took a step back and I said, no. I am worth so much more than that. And he said, I'm so glad that you recognize that. But if you keep trading your time for their dollars, that's what the world will pay you. That's what your worth is monetarily to the world. And I said, I can't accept that. And he said, good. But he said, there's something called leverage out there. Let me teach you about it. There's a couple of different leverages. You can leverage time. You can leverage your understanding, a knowledge, an idea, a concept. You can leverage money. You can leverage someone else's money. These are things that are going to help you in life. Let me tell you about how I leverage time. He said, if you had, 100 people working with you, how many hours could you work in a week? And I was trying to do the math. And he said, no, let's keep it simple. Over 100 times what you could do on your own, right? I said, no, that makes sense. What if you had 1,000 people working with you? Over 1,000 times what you could do on your own. What if you had 10,000 people working with you? He said, do you realize if you had 10,000 people working with you, you could work your 80,000 hours of your lifetime in a week, and then you could get paid on all of it. And all of a sudden, this giant light bulb blew up in my brain, Jacqueline, that was like, holy crud. And from that moment on, Jacqueline, I became unemployable. I'm sorry, I can't just work for anyone else. And from that second, I jumped up in the air, threw my hand in the air and said, someday, Don, I'm going to have 10,000 people working with me. And he said, good, I'll help you get there. And I'm glad to tell you, as an 18-year-old kid till now, I have over 10,000 people working with me now. I accomplished that. And those are stepping stones, right? But what really matters to me is from that moment on, I have the freedom to live the way I want to live, because I've learned the power of leverage, not only in the industry of network marketing where you and I are connected, but in multiple industries and multiple different facets. I find the lever points and the points to apply the pressure to yield the greatest results in each of my businesses. And not just for money, but for the purpose of which I'm doing the business. For me, it was when I was 13 years old, and I realized that what I wanted to do in this life was serve people and help people. That became the point of, how can I help the most people? How can I serve in a bigger, greater way? Some of these leaders out there, they'll talk about momentum. It's about speed, moving fast, and how many people you can reach during that time. Well, let's create that momentum with a purpose that has value. How many people can we serve? How fast can we get out there and start serving them, right? And so when you provide value to the world, what you get in return as one of the results is you get financial freedom, that's not the only thing you get in return, but I'm sure you have more questions, so I'll let you ask any more questions that you have.
No, I love that. And I've heard parts of your story before. And I think it's so cool that I'm hearing, different parts of it, even though it's kind of your story's the same, but I'm just hearing different parts of it. And I think that I was always the person, I know that I was always the person who thought that you had to do things one way. And so I think that you're really blessed to be able to see that that's not how things are, especially at such a young age. And then to be able to take that and learn the power of leverage. And a lot of times people, myself included, don't think about things like that and don't think about doing things like that. And so what you shared was just so valuable in that right there. So thank you so much for that. My next question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just the framing of how you see things, right? I mean, you take the example that I was dyslexic, right? And there's a couple of different ways we can frame that, right? I could be like, oh, I'm stupid, I can't read, and I could look at life like that. But I'll share a simple story with what happened to me when one of my first stories that I can remember of being dyslexic and how I frame things and the way I see things, so that other people can maybe possibly take that framework and use it and how they can start working with their own life. I remember, clear back in like second grade, I couldn't read, and the teacher passed out a worksheet for everybody to work on. And when she passed it out, she said, you guys can work in a group. There's four of us around a table, and so you guys can work as a group to finish this worksheet. And so I asked the group, I said, will you guys please read it to me, so then I know the answers, I can tell you the answers. And they all looked at me and said, you're just stupid. What? If you can't even read, we can't trust your answers. And so they didn't do it. We all did it on our own, and it turned out so. The next week, I asked them again. I said, can you guys please read that to me, so that I know the answers if you'll read it to me. And one of the girls says, I'll read it to you. And so she read me the questions and the answers. I'm like, oh, it's that one. They read me the next, oh, it's this one. Read me the next one, boom. And we got a perfect score. And they're like, hey, there's something to this. So every week they'd read it to me, and I would give them the answers, and we get perfect scores. And I realized, there's some things I can't do, right? I'm not good at, but there's some things I'm really good at. And instead of focusing in my framework on the things that I couldn't do, I just decided to get really, really good at what I could do. And one of the things that I realized I could do is I can influence others. And I could surround myself with the people with the ability that I don't have. And I can look for those people and say, oh my gosh, this is my weak spot, but this is your forte. Can you come and work with me? Because I need somebody for fill in that spot, because it's not whole without it. Will you come work with me? And I promise you, there's things that I can do that you might not be able to do, and we can help each other out. So I started being able to learn how to influence people. I started learning how to create a team, how to build something and realize that everybody has those weaknesses and those strengths, and how to strengthen my strength, my things, and just get them bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't mean I get to just ignore my weaknesses, but I get to make them stronger by the people that I'm hanging out with. I can learn from them. I can be mentored by them in my weakness, and I can learn to have that become a strength as well. And so like that's just, there's a mindset. And if there's anything I could convey on here that, that would be the difference between somebody who's an entrepreneur and who's not, it's the mindset of how you have to see things. You can't look at the negative and focus on the negative side. You've got to look towards the vision. You've got to look toward the long run. You've got to take the negative things that hit you, and you have to shift that mindset toward the positive side. So, all right, go ahead. I took you off course again. So
no, I love that. We have a lot of people watching us on live. I just want you to know. So every time I look over to the other side, it's because, and of course, as I'm doing that now, something's going wrong. Okay. It's because people are commenting to say hi. So hi, you guys on live. If you joined, if you have a question that you want to ask Jonathan, please feel free to ask it. Because I'm watching, and I would love to, I'd love to see what questions you have and what his response is. I love what you just shared in that moment, because it touches on so many things. The first thing it touches on is, wherever your focus is, if you're focused on the negative, then that's going to be what grows. And if you're focused on the positive and that things that you bring to the table, then that's going to be the other part that grows. And I think so many people don't realize that. And the other thing is sometimes we're conditioned to think negatively, right? And you can turn that around with positive thinking and with conditioning to condition yourself to replace those negative thoughts with positive ones. And so I think that, like, the best example that I have is if you're working 3 jobs and you're also building a network marketing business, and then you're also working with another company to launch it because you want to be an entrepreneur and your dream is to move forward and create this residual income. You can look at that as, I have no time for my family. I'm working these 3 jobs just to put food on the table. And I just, I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this hole. Or you can look at that as, I am so very blessed to have these 3 jobs as a stepping stone to help me launch my business and my network marketing company, because those are really going to be the things that take me to where I want to go and provide me with the financial freedom and free my family. And those are 2 very different outlooks. And I think a lot of times people focus on the first one instead of the second one. So.
And sadly, the majority of the United States, and not just the States, many other countries, that's the way they're framing things. It's the filter they're looking through. If you put on rose-colored glasses, everything looks rosy. It's crazy how that works. You can find what you look for, you find, and it becomes what your reality of things, because that's what you've been looking for. It's like, I'm sure this happened to everybody. Like, you finally go and buy a car, or you get yourself a car, and then all of a sudden everyone's driving your car, and you're like, why did they copy me? Is it because all of a sudden now that you have that car, that's what you find everywhere you're going? And the thing is, if you're sure that the world's going to screw you, guess what? You're going to find all the different ways the world's going to screw you. Excuse me. If, on the other hand, let me cancel that. On the other hand, if you are looking for the ways the world is abundant with you and loving you and taking care of you, and how many times you have literally just had angels walking into your life right in the right moment, that's exactly what you'll find. I will tell you, I went on a 2-year humanitarian mission for my church, where we'd go out, and our whole objective was just to help people in any way that we could. And one of the people, because we'd walk around as companions, one of my companions, he said to me, he's like, I love being around you. And he'd call me Rhoades. I love being around you. And I said, why is that? And he says, because it's like, I know that every time I'm with you, miracles are just going to happen. Like, things are just happening. And it was because the way he was looking at life, when he had a belief in his mind, if he was around me, that was going to happen. Guess what he was looking for? And guess what he found? Every day we would walk together. And it's like, there's different ways we can filter it. If we could put in a filter that makes life happy and enjoyable, why wouldn't we choose to use that filter? I don't understand that. It's because sometimes we can get addicted to the filter where life is crap, and the feeling that life is what we feel in that moment. Some of us can get addicted to anger. I mean, there's people that are addicted to that instead of joy. And we can be honest with ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I've been there. And there's been days, I teach state. I teach how to manage state and how to be aware and self-aware of the state you're in. And even though I've been teaching on this for 15 years, Jacqueline, there are days when I just want to have a bad day. And I just want to be there. and I have to recognize it's my choice to be here right now. And if I'm going to suffer, I'm going to suffer with all my suffering. If I'm going to be upset, I'll be upset with all my anger or whatever. But then I have to also pull myself out of it and realize, okay, I've had my time with that awesome, crazy feeling that really isn't serving me much. And it's time for me to get my butt out of this space and into the space of production and beauty and life again. So, we're going to have those days. We're going to go up and we're going to go down. And that's just part of what life is, right? So keep going, Jacqueline. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is great. So You talked a little bit about the key things that have kind of some of the things that have helped you achieve success along the way, like having really good mentors and surrounding yourself with incredible people. What are some of the other things that were key things that helped you achieve such amazing success along the way?
So, like I said, with those mentors and mindset, I told you, was the biggest thing. The way that, what some people would have considered to be a big flaw with me, with being dyslexic, to me is my greatest blessing, because it shifted the way I saw everything all the time. And, at some points it taught me humility. But so here's the way I see a few things. So, for example, the people, people go through tough times, right? And a lot of times what you hear is, when tough times hit, it's time to get tougher, right? And this is coming from Les Brown. And he says, when those tough times hit and those people just try to get tougher, he said, sadly, those people won't make it through to the other side. So the only ones to make it through are the ones with a vehicle and a support group to get them through, right? And so you have to look for those vehicles. And for me, one of the greatest parts of a vehicle for yourself is your own mindset, right? It is one of your pieces of that vehicle. And so the way that you frame things is everything. So you start accepting and embracing the new and the now, right? You don't have to be so stuck on what you're looking at that you can't accept the new that's coming in. There's changes going on right now, and I hope you guys are aware of them, like the different things in the economy. There's a different mindset of the new generations coming in. People, if I continued with the structural business of the past, my business isn't going to flourish in the future, because so many new technologies are coming in, so many new ideas and concepts are coming in. You have to be able to go with the flow. It doesn't mean that you reject or neglect your principle or your foundational core. It means you have to shift some of the way you do things. You start embracing the new and the now. You have a soft answer to those things, instead of nope, we can't do any of that stuff. And you just close minded. Nope, we're not using the internet. We stick to word of mouth only, and that's it. They're not going to grow like the people that learn how to use these new technologies. They're not going to reach as many people. Instead of looking at it as a recession, you got to look at it as a new economy. You start seeing every obstacle as an opportunity to shift, where you are now, to a new state, to a new place. And when you start looking at life that way, it becomes an adventure. And it isn't about achieving to be happy. It's about happily achieving along the way. It's the little steps along the way. I was on a phone call today where a doctor out in Canada said, he got recognized for a bunch of different things that he'd just done. And somebody had recognized him and said, hey, way to go. And he said, those are just milestones, and they're along the way. They're just part of the way, along the way for us in the direction we're headed, and we celebrate them when they come. But I'm not doing it just for that thing. It's a direction of the vision that you're headed. And this is just part of the journey. And so accepting that this life is a journey, and that, we were born perfect. And this is something that's huge. We were born perfect. And then so many times we think that we have to become perfect. And so we start layering on all of these things to try to be perfect. And all we've done is just cover up the perfect that was already in existence. And so sometimes I love this word. We have to unbecome. We have to take that stuff off and revert back to our state of who we were when we were born, and kind of reach in and tap into that inner child, the one that was happy because he was just happy, not because of anything, just because he is or she is. That little child. Think about it when you're 3 or 4 years old, Jacqueline. Think about your own little girl right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is she happy because you're making more money? No. Or is she just happy because she sees your eyes and your arms and she just wants to be there with you, right? That when we can tap into that and we can start to see the world that way, it changes the way that we live, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, and so many people say, I myself included have done this. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm making more money. I'll be happy when I graduate college and get that dream job. I'll be happy. Instead of just choosing to be happy and I know that, I'm kind of, that's like an understatement, choosing to be happy now, because that's where the journey gets interesting, because all these obstacles come up and come in our way, and we have to figure out how to navigate those. But the beauty of it is to be able to be happy while you're battling those obstacles and overcoming them, because that's making you a stronger person in what you're trying to achieve. And for me personally, in my journey with network marketing, if I had been given more 3 years ago within my business, I think it would have failed. I don't think it would have been as successful as I know that it's going to be in the future, because I wasn't ready for more, because I hadn't gone through enough of the work to go past the obstacles and learn the things I needed to learn to be able to flourish. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, we're going to go through uncertainty in this life, right? We're going to go to that space where we recognize we don't know what we thought we knew, and that space is uncomfortable, and no one likes to be told they don't know everything, right? So a lot of people will try to revert back to, you know what, maybe it's a different way I'm supposed to go. But in that uncertainty, in that uncomfortable, is where the growth happens. That's where Jacqueline becomes Jacqueline, and the shift, happens, and you start to recognize things you didn't know before, and your results become better because of what you've learned, right? And so we have to, instead of, when we go and are thrust into that section of uncertainty and of uncomfortableness, of deception, is the way that Rod Harrison would say it. And he's one of my favorite mentors and friends. It's in those moments when you can reframe your situation, and instead of realizing that in this moment of hurt and pain or whatever you're feeling is a sign that I shouldn't be on this path, instead of saying that, you say, oh my gosh, this is exactly where I need to be, because this is where I'm growing to who I want to be, right? And instead of it being deception, where you're almost depressed that you're there, it becomes resistance. Where, like, for example, somebody going into the gym and lifting a weight knows it's going to be a little painful, but they actually start to look forward to the pain, because they know that's where the growth of the muscle is going to happen. That's where the shift is going to happen, where they're going to change and be a different person. And so we look at life differently. We can frame the life we want as we want to, whether we think we can or we think we can't. We're right. Everything we do in this life matters. Everything we don't do in this life matters. It's that simple. And we've programmed ourselves perfectly on accident to exactly who we are right now. Now the key is to intentionally reprogram that programming, because some of it came from our, when we were a kid. And it came from the programming our parents received when they were a kid, and the program they received when their parents were a kid, and they were in the Great Depression. You know what I mean? And so we're wondering why we're walking around life thinking that, we're still in a Great Depression. Well, we get to reprogram this thing right here. Everything that we put into our lives, whether it be people surrounding us, whether in our environment, whether it be the food that we're eating and the water we're drinking, it becomes who we are. We become a sum total of the people and the things that are around. Just like we've heard the phrases, we are what we eat. Well, what we put in our mind becomes our reality. Today, I watched another video. Every day I put something positive into my mind. This is one of my greatest habits that I've had since I was 8 years old. I have not missed like a day since I was 8 years old. I used to get made fun of by my own family with it. Since I was 8 years old, I would take a 30-minute to an hour-long tub. Sitting there in the tub, I would shut my eyes and let my mind wander. Let it go anywhere it wanted to go. I wouldn't restrain it. I wouldn't hold it back. I would just let it go. There was no reason for it. I would just let it be. And I would sit there, and different things would come to me. Ideas, concepts, understanding of different things that I'd heard. I would sometimes just rewatch a movie in my head, whatever it was. But every day for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, I would just sit there and be still and let my mind be open. And what would come in was probably why I am where I am now, because every day I did that, and I would learn some of the greatest things from my own mind and my own heart. You know, some of my greatest lessons, and my wife, if she was on this call right now, she would be saying yes, because she realized I'll come out of the bathroom, get my clothes on, and I'd be like, let me teach you something I just learned, you know, and then I get so excited about it, because sometimes I'll see myself. And one of the most common thing that would happen, and I think it's because, you know, I started teaching on stage a lot. I would see myself walk onto a stage and I would teach the people, right? And what I would be teaching them, I'd never heard before. And so who am I really teaching there? I was learning from my own self in that image. And I would, you know, I'd come out of there and like, oh my gosh, I have to shift some of my beliefs on those subjects that I just taught myself, right? And I would allow space for inspiration to come. We are all born with it. We have access to that, guys. It's inside of us. If we'll allow it to come out, you know, our belief is what holds us back in any of our things, or it's what sets us free and we go forward. And so we got to start working on those beliefs and recognizing which ones are serving us, which ones are holding us back, and really working on them consciously every day, working on those unconscious beliefs. And it's that's what will determine where we're headed, right? And we want to start coming from the inside out, not from the outside in, where we're placing value outside of ourselves, because nothing outside of you can sustain your value. If I place my value on money, the day I don't make enough money, I have no value, right? So like, and I can explain that super simply. You know, I do a process with some of my friends sometimes in workshops, and I don't know if I've ever done this with you, Jacqueline. Are you open for it?
Sure. I think you might have done it with me before.
Have I done it before? Oh, it might not be the same if I do it with you, but we'll try. If I did do it with you, you might want to give the same response you gave the first time, but we'll see. If I said money is, I want you to respond back to it. Have I done this with you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Do you remember what you first said? Actually, let's just do it like this. Everybody who's watching right now or watching later, I want you to answer this question.
Yeah, type what you think money is.
All right, so I'm going to say money is, and then I want you to type what you think it is, guys. Money is, and then first thing that comes to your head, I want you to type it in, and then Jacqueline's going to read it to me.
There's a little bit of a delay, so.
It's okay.
I might have to refresh it.
I'm okay. You know what? While we're waiting for this, I was going to say, it's okay to have a pause, and it's okay to have the uncomfortable moments, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know, that again, right there, back in the uncertainty section, that's where the growth is happening right there, right? Yeah. Has anybody typed yet?
I refreshed the screen a minute, so I'm pulling it back up.
Okay. I'll throw out there interesting thought that just came into my mind. You know, I was being mentored by somebody who is a master of physiology, right? And they were teaching me the how important our body language is. And he's a master at it. So in a few moments with any person, he could tell them more about themselves than they'd ever be comfortable with sharing with anyone else, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he was sharing with me was the idea of, you know, where our eyes go when we ask a question, different things. And one of the things that he was talking to me about was when we ask our children a lot of times a question and we watch their eyes go down and even their head go down for a second. And he said, when you see that happen, he says, you shut up. You ask your child a question, and if their eyes go down and their head goes down for a second, you just be quiet. He says, so many times the parents will be like, why did you do this? And their kids' eyes will go down and their head will go down. And before they even are able to respond to the question that you just asked, then immediately right after that, they're like, well, why are you answering me? And then they start, down this path. He said, when their eyes go down and they're looking down, he says, they're going into their heart. They're going into their space here, and they're looking for the answer. But when they're going down like that, they're looking for a real answer, a deep answer. And he says, it takes some time. It's like a submarine just slowly coming back up. But when they come up, when they're going to have something good for you. He says, so when that happens, just be quiet for a minute. So when you see that, it's a little nugget, and it has nothing to do with business, but it has everything to do with life. When you see that, when it happens to you, after you do that, grab a pen and write down that answer, because you were actually looking for that deep enough that you got yourself a good answer. And if you see that in your kids, you take a step back and let them come back up and give you the answer that they were searching for. Okay. So just a nugget. All right.
No,
is there any?
No one's commented. So
I'll switch this up a little bit. If we aren't able to get those comments, a lot of times, Jacqueline, people will say time is, and they'll say freedom. Time is, and then they'll say money is. I'm not saying time. Time is, and they say freedom, and they say money is, and they'll say luxury. They'll say, all the different things that people have heard. In fact, what I'll do with this is I'll just switch it to the last time I shared this with a really close friend. He opened up with me and he said, I have this one thing that I can't figure out. Maybe you can help me with. And I said, sure. What is it? And he says, I was going to go buy some jet skis. And he said, I felt terrible about it. I'm like, why am I buying these jet skis? There's so many better things I can do with my money. I can help people. I can do these things. Why do I feel so terrible about buying these jet skis? And then I went to the store, and there's a friend of mine. He just went through a hard time, and I realized he needed some help, so I gave him $100, and then I was totally fine. I was happy to go buy jet skis. And he's like, I can't figure out what happened. Why did the shift happen? And I asked him the same question. I said, what is money to you? Money is, and he said, these are the two that he said. He said, money is freedom, and money is luxury. And I said, a lot of times we put our value on things outside of ourselves, or value on things that can't sustain the value. And he said, yeah, but I have no attachment to money. I mean, I have no attachment to luxury or attachment to, I don't put my value on those things. And I said, you're right. You put your value on not having those things. And he goes, oh. Because what he just saw was, because now he's going to have jet skis, then he gave away his value. It was the opposite. It's the hidden one that you can't see that makes you sabotage yourself. And I said, but as soon as you gave $100 away and you reproved to yourself that money wasn't that you still have value because you can give money away, that the value still money didn't have any value for you, then you were okay with yourself. I said, we even attach our value on things like that, on more of the other side of it. And it shifted him so much. It was crazy. All right, go ahead, Jacqueline. Anything that's on your mind?
So we're kind of over time, but I kind of have two questions, just so that people know like your background a little bit better. Can you just kind of share like really quickly? We talked about how you're in network marketing, but can you talk a little bit about some of the other things that you're involved with and that you do?
Okay. So as an entrepreneur, since I was 18 years old, I was in network marketing, and I was, that was become an industry that's been absolutely beautiful and has provided me financial freedom and time freedom to do what I want when I want. And so some of the things that I've done with that time freedom is I've started many other companies, many other businesses, and each one with the same purpose: to help the world, to serve the world. I've been a store owner. I have 5 successful stores in Utah. And you know what? It provides a need for people and a release for them to actually get back around the table and play games again, right? And then outside of that, I started a company where I was a president and president over a seminars company, where I would go from school to school, teach the teachers. I don't have a degree, guys. I never finished college. And yet here I found myself teaching the teachers, and then the next day, all of the student body, about how to have a mindset for success, how to get the most out of life in every moment they have. And I was extremely successful in that. I got paid very well. Outside of that, I then reached out and connected with some major companies that are doing things on a broader scale, where they're reaching out to some of the largest companies out there and biggest names under, in the United States. And we've got a program that has enough leverage to shift their cultures to where they need it to go. And I've been a part of that process. And then outside of that, there's another company that is literally, its mission is just to feed the world. And right now it's in its beginning legs. And I mean, it's growing so fast. There's a need for it when there's some things I can't say here, but before we even launched our first run, it was featured in Entrepreneur magazine as well as Forbes magazine. And we're dealing with the Elon Musks of the world. We're working with some of the most powerful, influential people in the world because of what we stand for and where we're going. And we just got, before our initial run, we got a contract to go feed 1 million people. And that was before we even set our first run out, because of the power behind what we're doing and the need for it in the industry. And all of this is happening because I found myself surrounded by the people that I love. I'm very particular about the people I hang out with. I love everyone. And I made this decision clear back in elementary school again, that I will love everyone, and if they choose to love me back, that's their choice. But where I stand from is I love everyone and I treat them all as equal. And if they would like to be my friend and love me back, I would love that. And so I do that with everyone, but the ones I'm going to spend my time with, that I'm going to spend, because for me, time is the most precious resource. And if I'm going to spend my time with them, they need to be a positive thing in my life. And I surround myself with great partners that know what they're doing and they know how to do things that I don't know how to do. And I leverage myself so that I could always be doing the things that I want to be doing all the time. So in each of my companies, I've leveraged myself in a way where I have enough time to be with my wife and my kids, because that's the most important thing to me. And then I have time to go out there and just bless the world in any way I can. So those are a couple of the companies, but there's so much more. And I don't want to get specific on any one of those companies, but I want you to know everyone has it in them to be a blessing in this world, to be a light to others, and to create from the inside out something incredible, because you're born with genius inside of you that no one else has. And that it needs to get out, guys. That the world needs us right now. And we are equals. And I hope that you can start seeing yourself as an equal to anyone else out there. I can look at a Warren Buffett and go sit down next to him, and I feel like I'm an equal. I do not make as much money as he does, but I feel like I am in the top 1% of the world as far as my wealth in this world. Because I've always, since the time I was 18, actually, I just lived the life the way I want to live it. And I enjoy my life every step, the ups and the downs equally. So I hope that.
No, that's amazing. And, I that's something that I really commend you for, because I feel like sometimes people let fear get in the way of what they truly want to have and achieve. And you don't do that. Like, you push through, and you literally lived life on your own terms since you were 18 years old. And I think that that's awesome. I think that for some of us, especially me, it took me a little bit longer to figure out, that I didn't have to do things a certain way, because I was conditioned to believe that I did. So I love that. I love everything that you have shared, Jonathan. I have one more question. We are way over time, but I think it's the most important question that I ask everybody. What is one thing that you think could help someone who's watching this, who may be in a very unhappy place in their life? Something may be going on that has them really down, or they may be in a tough financial situation, or, just struggling a lot. What is one thing that you could share with that person who might be watching, that, might help them?
You touched on fear, right?
Yes.
And there's an image that comes to my mind. And this is one of the images that happened while I was sitting in the tub with my mind wandering, right? And in the image, I came up to a cliff, and I saw that where I wanted to go was over on this other cliff, further, like on the other side of this great gap. And I looked over there, and at first the gap looked way too big. It's just scary to me. And the image, I'd walk up and I'd look at it and be like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. This is too big, and I'd walk back and forth. And then I saw over on the other side an image of me over there. And that image turned and looked at me and said, come on. And all of a sudden something shifted inside of me. And that gap that I was looking at, that I was so afraid of, instead of going down, looking at it and saying, oh my goodness, all of a sudden it turned into, I stepped back and I knew I could make it. And I ran at it and I just jumped off, and it became an, oh my goodness, and I made it to the other side. If we can set a vision for ourselves of where we really want to go, and we get up to that precipice where normally our fears would kick in, and we look at it, we say, oh my goodness, I can't do this. But we can see ourselves over there. We can set that vision solid enough, clear enough. The fear becomes a motivator instead of something to hold us back. Instead of, oh my goodness, I can't do this, it becomes the, oh my goodness, yeah, I'm going to do this. And it shifts the perception of the fear, becomes what pushes us to jump, to run and do it. And so if there is one thing I could tell the person that's having a hard time today, it'd be that this time will pass. The pain will be gone, and you'll find yourself outside of it. But what you're going to learn through that is why you're there. So start looking at it and find the glory inside of the space that you're living right now. And I know it sounds easy. I mean, it sounds easy to say, and it's harder in the moments, but you're living in it. But that, we've heard the words, this too shall pass, and it will. It'll be a small moment that you're feeling that pain, but it'll be worth it once you figure out why you're there. So, because it's going to be what shifts you to reach those goals. So set clear in your mind, be very crystal clear when you can taste where you're going, when you can feel what it feels like, when you can see it with such clarity that there's no difference from when you actually get there to from when you saw it in your mind's eye and your heart. That's how clear you have to get on it. You will reach those things because it becomes part of who you are. And so set a vision. It's not something you can reach. A vision is a direction in which you're going, because every time you get closer to it, you see further out. Your vision keeps expanding. And so it's a direction. And keep that in mind, that part of this direction is going to have some pitfalls, and it's going to have some places that are going to hurt. And you're going to go through that, but you're going to go through it knowing it's part of the process to get where you're wanting to go. And the sacrifice happens where you're trading something now for something better later, right? Something that you wanted now for something better later, including your comfort now to finally reach where you're wanting to go for later. So where you're at now isn't where you're always going to be. You're not going to be stuck there forever, unless that's where you choose to be, okay? But set that vision and get really, really clear on it, because you can reach it. I know you can.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I think that was so valuable. I think so many people will get value out of the conversation that we've had today. I don't think I know. I know that there are so many people who are going to watch this, and they're going to get so much value. If whoever watches this is going to get so much value out of it. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I know that you've taken time away from your family to speak with me, and I just can't even tell you how much I appreciate that. I've learned a lot from this conversation, so I know others are going to learn a lot too. I hope everyone is having an amazing Friday. If you're watching live, does anyone have one more question? I'll give you a second to comment. And while you're commenting, I'm not really sure what's happening with Hurricane Irma, so I'm going to plan on having Transformation Tuesday. But if something happens and we lose power and all that stuff, then I won't be on for Transformation Tuesday. But I'm going to plan on it for now. And if you don't see me, then I'll just pick it up the week after. I don't see any questions. So I hope everyone has an amazing Friday night. And thank you again, Jonathan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please tell Romy and your beautiful children that we appreciate you being here so very much.
Well, I love you guys. I can't wait to see the recorded version so I can see everybody who's on there and tell you all, I love you guys.
Bye, Jonathan. Thank you. Bye, everyone.